Yes, we know that Iran still hasn't developed a nuclear weapon, but that's because we have set sanctions on them. We have set
Iran.
We're also the only country that's ever used a nuclear weapon, and we did so twice, killing thousands of people.
No, that was of course during World War II when they killed
We still were the only ones who...
Anyway.
Okay. All right, 7 minutes. 7 minutes. All right, we're gonna everyone take subjects. All right, and I'm gonna ask the Libertarian Longhorns, how would your party candidates reduce the deficit? Yes. The question is, how would your party reduce the deficit?
Well, we would first reduce it. So 50% of the budget is military spending, right? So I think that's the #1 priority in terms of cutting. Are you fact checking, sir?
Well, I think that's only about 1/5 of the national budget, actually.
1/5. That's news to me. We'll look to
This is not going to work. That's the real problem. Why?
All right. And
okay. Great.
the second issue is phasing out Social Security and Medicare programs. The reality is that over the next 8 years, we're going to need to find a solution to the rising deficits in these programs due to the fact that we have an aging population. One of those solutions, and it's a very simple one that the Democrats have been opposed to, which is raising the retirement age. We're living longer and longer, and people don't need to be retired for the last 20 years of their lives playing golf at the taxpayer's expense in Florida.
Okay, look, so in terms of military spending, President Obama has, through the advice of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said yes, we need to cut military spending because the Joint Chiefs of Staff have advised them that, look, we don't need the amount of funding that you're giving us right now. So by making an informed decision from what the Joint Chiefs are telling them, yes, we agree that rather than having just a bigger military, we need to invest in a smarter military with strategic ways, strategic military, by spending lower amounts of funds, by getting better technology. So that's one big way we want to cut the deficit by.
And talking about Social Security, it's a sticky issue because it affects millions of seniors in America. There's just absolutely no way anyone is ever going to support getting rid of Social Security. Everybody needs that social safety net for our elderly who fall in bad times. There is no doubt that we are going to need to have some sort of reforms, but without having to turn it into some voucher program. Also, we're going to need to reduce the deficit. We're also going to need revenue increases. And so we're going to need to ask our wealthiest Americans to contribute a little more, maybe getting rid of the Bush tax cuts, and making sure we have enough revenue stream, and of course, reforming our entitlements.
Look, we can't balance the budget by throwing our seniors under the bus or saying, look, we don't want to fund certain educational programs. We got to balance it in a way which in the long term it benefits us. Like, we can't just cut back on infrastructure. We can't say we don't need more revenue by taking on the Bush tax cuts so that we get more revenue. It's just not practical to say we're going to cut all these facilities with no hope for the future.
Okay, so those are the 2-minute statements now to the Longhorn Libertarians.
One point I would make is, everyone talks about how we're reducing spending at a lot of levels, but actually what we're doing is we're just merely reducing the rate that spending is increasing.
So we're still speeding up in the car, but the car is still going fast.
What I would argue is that it's like if you're stealing $1 from your friend every day, and then you decide to steal only 50 cents and expect him to thank you for it.
Right. Also, we'd like to point out that if you cut the entire, you cut the DEA, all the drug raids that go on, which only hurt the poorest of Americans. Most drug users are white, for example, and predominantly people who go to jail for drug use and selling drugs are black. Most of the law enforcement facilities are institutionalizing racism, which goes back to the Democrats' proposed, equality. Most of the government programs are perpetuating these things, and they're costing a lot of money. We spend, for example, I think that the way to solve Social Security would be to, our generation, just stop taxing it. So then we don't expect it when we're older, and then we can save for ourselves. Social Security, when it was originally founded, was private. Every time you donated to it, it went into your specific account. Like, you knew how much you put in there, and you got that back, and it was your money. it was just managed under a certain, it was government managed. But you had the option to opt out, and it was yours, and there was no way that they could money launder with it, like the Democrats have done with Obamacare. They say that it's going to, make money, whereas they're money laundering out of Social Security and Medicare. So really, it costs more money. A lot of the problems with the government are you don't know how much things cost in the first place because there are so many programs between which you can funnel money, which if anyone private did that, it's money laundering. It's illegal, it's a felony.
Okay, Social Security, Obamacare, these are all issues that are relevant to the discussion of the deficit.
Yeah, well, so they've clearly been listening to the same movement Romney has. The truth of the matter is, when you have an aging population, you cannot leave them in the desert and expect them to fend for themselves. These people have worked hard their whole life, have contributed to Social Security, and they deserve to get their Social Security when they reach their golden years. Now, when she mentioned money being taken out of Medicare to pay for Obamacare, guess what? Obamacare saved seniors tons of money by closing the loophole. So to say that the federal government is laundering money by taking money away from Medicaid to fund Obamacare, that is completely false. Obamacare closed the loophole, and that is where, and we are using those savings for other programs.
You want to address this one?
Okay, so on Obamacare, specifically,
Care Act.
huh?
It's called the Affordable.
Right, so the Affordable Care Act, right, but I mean, I don't know, it's
Okay,
okay.
it's just not going to work.
So anyway, effectively what it does is it prevents physician managed or physician specialty hospitals, that's what they're called, from expanding. It prevents new ones from being created, so it essentially transitions all of the market onto general hospitals, which are owned by the state typically. General hospitals have more inefficiencies, which means that more people die. They aren't allowed to get the care that they need. The costs rise because you've effectively given an oligopoly to these hospitals. So costs will effectively rise, and the government is saying that they're going to cover them. And we haven't seen the results of this yet, and that's why nobody realizes it. But the way that it is set up is it's basically a corporate scam to give more money to the big hospital lobby.
And insurance companies.
And insurance companies. So, and who are not allowed to compete across state lines because of government mandates. And that's a protectionist policy which allows them to charge people more money for the same services, and that's government mandated. That's they're raising the prices, and then they're saying that they can cut them by putting more laws in. Whereas if you just made them compete, like all small business owners have to, you'd see the costs skyrocket. They'd rocket down. Sorry. Before insurance, things cost a lot less, and you've seen the co-pays go up, and because we have insurance to cover things like the common cold.
All right, response to that, and then last topic, subtopic within this is also what should this generation's relationship to Social Security be, and what your parties have differing positions, and I think that's a question people in this audience are interested in. All right, so response and then.
Okay. So I'll tell you what Obama effectively does. Obama effectively says that if you are a college student, you can stay on your parents' insurance until you're of the age of 26. If you have a pre-existing condition, the insurance companies cannot deny coverage to you. That is what effectively Obamacare does. Obama effectively gives your parents back a rebate that your insurance company gives your parents back rebate for money that insurance companies should have not had in the first place. That is what Obamacare effectively does. Obamacare has fixed the healthcare system in our country. Yes, we still have a way to go, but right now this is good. Obamacare saves senior citizens money. Obamacare allows you to stay on your parents' insurance until you're 26. Obamacare allows your parents to get rebates. Obamacare prevents people with pre-existing conditions from being denied. That is what Obamacare does.
And by saying that Obamacare caters to the insurance lobbies is simply untrue, because before Obamacare, insurance companies made huge profits by setting their own rates and things like that.
Hold on, why did their stock prices go up after the Affordable Care Act was passed?
that's not an indication by passing a piece of legislation that hasn't been completely enacted yet. You're saying
Have
that.
you all read the actual Affordable Care Act? Just
All right.
There are some getting lots of different signals from everyone in the audience. There is some advantage to having back and forth discourse. I do think that we don't want to interrupt. That is correct. I do wish that some of the debaters would answer the question about what their party has to offer about this generation's relationship with Social Security and what it should be. All right, so I'm going to give you, we're going to extend this 30 seconds answering that question specifically, and then we'll move on. All right?
Okay, so we don't agree with the idea that Social Security is going to be abolished and it's going to be completely gone. We do understand the fact that we are in different times. We are in the 1960s where people would retire and expect a Social Security check. We're just not going to have that luxury. But we can't tell ourselves, well, we're just going to get rid of it entirely. We're going to have to find new ways to bring in more revenue and to make sure that Social Security is there for us whenever we reach our retirement.
Okay.
I would say the first problem with bringing in more revenue is that when we raise taxes, we reduce the ability of businesses and people to service their debt, and then we fall back into another financial crisis. And the second issue is that with Social Security, we need to be able to phase it out. In order to do that, we have to allow our generation to opt out of Social Security taxes so that we don't feel like we've paid into some nebulous fund that doesn't exist in reality. And I agree with you that we can't just cut seniors off because they have come to be dependent on the government.
And they did pay into the system, and we do feel like if you paid into a system, you deserve to get that money back.
The reality, though, is that they also elected people who took that Social Security money and then spent it on things like the war in Vietnam, which, in retrospect, it doesn't seem like a great idea, but the Democrats at the time supported it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Next question is, so 2 minutes, and then more stuff. Higher education matters to this audience. How would your party's policies increase college accessibility and affordability while at the same time not diluting the quality of public education?
President Obama has made sure that $56 billion has been saved instead of transactions from banks to students. It goes straight through the government. So 1/3 of that money is used as additional funding for Pell Grants, where students that need money to attend college can go. So by doing that, effectively raises the rate, how many students go to college. Furthermore, research universities, I think UT, just about a week ago, received a big grant from the federal government because it's a Tier 1 research university to continue doing more research, which holds the credibility of our university while having more students. So the Democratic Party has always prioritized education as one of the top issues, and we continue to do so. Our candidate came from a background where he didn't have too much opportunity and made his way through, and that's the clear example saying that education shouldn't be a luxury. It should essentially be a right that everybody has the ability to have a decent education and make their way through life.
Okay.
I'd like to make one quick point.
This is your 2-minute statement.
Yeah. That just to start with, and Caitlin's going to take over. If we took a fraction of what we spent on our military and all these unnecessary wars every day and put that towards college, we could easily pay for everyone's college tuition in America. We don't necessarily agree with that, but if we're going to get serious about issues like that, we have to cut the defense spending significantly.
Right. And so the way that it works is when you subsidize an industry, they're probably going to either, okay. So all the prices go up because they realize that people are going to choose college even if they can't afford it. So colleges have gotten more money, and what they spend it on, and what we've seen them spend it on, and this goes for private universities to receive these funds too, it goes to bureaucracy. It goes to growing their bureaucracy and making their school look prettier for prospective students. It doesn't go towards better education. Class sizes still grow. I'm on Pell Grants, and I would say that we should wipe out the entire program. I would take that hit because I know that it costs more money ultimately, and I'm probably gonna have to pay that back in taxes.
Pell Grants go directly to students.
Okay, I realize that, but the whole program, it makes people weigh their opportunities differently. and I mean, I think that our college culture is ridiculous, and not everyone should go to college because, frankly, if you're going to graduate with a useless major, it's not a good, it's a waste of time. And I think that our country has a really inappropriate relationship with this degree. Like, if you're going for a STEM major, I think it makes much more sense than if you're going for philosophy, unless you're going to get a JD or something. And I'm sorry for any philosophy majors, but, we shouldn't be subsidizing things that are not going to help people in the end, if we're going to subsidize anything at all.
Okay.
Can we respond?
Stop, that was 2 minutes. Okay, so that is an interesting topic. It may, this is slowly becoming a conversation that we have at UT and not one about the presidential election. But it is one of the larger discussions about how much college costs, and, in response to some of the things that they said.
Now, okay, I'm just going to have to respond to what she said. She's obviously attended one too many or 10 forum rallies. Now, she's just well, maybe not all of y'all, unless y'all are business majors or one of the successful majors that, I don't know. Most of y'all are wasting y'all's time here in university. The fact is the Democratic Party is a party that supports education. We believe that everyone deserves an education because it is a way to success. Not everyone starts on a level playing field, but education does provide that for many students.
If it were a level playing field, like private colleges were allowed to exist, which they're not in Minnesota, they just made it illegal for you to spend any money on online education, which frankly is not significantly worse than most education, most schools. There's this really upper class view of education, like you have to go to a university and get this experience, as opposed to just learning either skills or learning the actual subject matter, which you can frankly get from the internet. Like, the internet is this amazing phenomenon which gives you all the information that you could get in the classroom on a computer. Frankly, like, everyone's talking.
All right, everyone.
Can I just make a first response to that?
Wait a minute. She's going to finish.
What you're paying for essentially is a degree. And I mean, I think that it's everyone's choice whether they want to go to an institution or not. But I think that ultimately that's a personal choice. And if you choose to, go for a cheaper option, then you should be allowed to do that. And the government, frankly, I mean, it makes competition illegal. Like, if there was competition, I think that, it would be more acceptable. But if you're making online universities illegal, I think at that point, it starts being a little bit absurd to say that you want to make it accessible to everyone.
Okay.
Look, we're making colleges accessible to everyone. Community colleges, they offer various programs to do things online. Most of my courses, some courses I'm taking at UT are online. So by saying that the Democratic Party doesn't support online education is simply untrue. And you're more of that.
And look, honestly, my friend here says we can just get off there. Honestly, I'm going to trust my college professor more than Wikipedia. You can go with what you want. I'm going to stick with education here at UT.
All right, why don't we go back a little bit, outline some of the views, the Libertarians' views on college education specifically, and the same thing for Denver, so we can return to what the purpose of this debate was.
Well, personally, my experience here at the university, I'm in the professional accounting program, and all that I have learned are things that I would have been able to learn in the professional business world without paying someone to teach it to me. So, to me, it seems kind of absurd